Yeah, going live.
You're on.
We're on.
No countdown this time. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Type Thursday Book Club. This is Thomas, Type Thursday HQ. I have here Matheo from Type Thursday LA. And we have a special guest, Andrea from Type Thursday LA as well. And we have Michael from Type Thursday Phoenix, Type Thursday Book Club. It's great to have you all join us today. So, as I said, these are the hosts from your chapters around the world. What the font is Type Thursday? Type Thursday is a meeting place for people who love fonts. We meet once a month with work in progress projects that use letter forms. You come in, you share what you're working on, and you have a community of friends who love type just as much as you do, give you feedback and direction and inspiration on what you're working on. Love to have you come to our physical events in Los Angeles and Phoenix this time. But this week, when we're not at physical Type Thursday events, we are here for the Type Thursday Book Club. And this week, we are reviewing Inside Paragraphs from Cyrus Highsmith. And I'm very excited to do this book review with our fellow experts in the field. So reminders about the Type Thursday Book Club is that we read this book privately. We do not know what ratings are. And now publicly live together, we're going to review this book together. And we agreed beforehand on 5 criteria: clarity of concepts, visual inspiration, practical application, typographic insight, and lastly, overall impact on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. Do we love it? Do we hate this book? What do we agree? Where do we disagree? That's what we're going to learn together in today's episode of the Type Thursday Book Club. So with that, Michael, let us jump on over to our Fig Jam. Yeah, these are very popular. People spoke with me privately how much they love this. So with this said, I'm just going to come in strong right from the get-go on clarity of concepts. This week, I'm going to just throw it in there and then give my reasoning. We are going solid 4 on clarity of concepts. It has reasoning. It's systematic. It moves with logic. And that narrows focus of what this book's about is really its strength. Rather than trying to explain every single nuance and aspect of typography, the book focuses instead on the absent spaces as a central design problem idea. That gives it a lot of focus. And I also think particularly kind of using the paragraph is the right focal point for typographic training. It sits at that meeting place between the typographer and the typeface designer, which makes a lot of sense considering Cyrus is a typeface designer. I think that's a very nice holding hand point of the typographers that use his work as fonts and the person designing fonts. And from there, the book unfolds in a really logical chain of relationships: counter space, letter space, glyph space, word space, line space. And I think pedagogically, that's a really right move. That's a really smart move. Now, why is it not 5 stars? It's not 5 stars because I do think it is a jump from concept to application. The book is more or less tells you you're going to need to develop your sense of spacing. It's something that he can point you to, but ultimately it's up to you to get that sense. It's like it's trying to explain, what does oregano taste like? I don't know. It's like you have to experience it. It's like that. But that's the hardest part. The concepts only really work when they survive, contact with practice. And there's lots of great diagrams and visualizations, but those aren't really the same. Most students are not going to make that leap on their own. And because the spacing is so interdependent, beginners are going to get absolutely overwhelmed very fast. And Cyrus is aware of that. He has a closing comment about that in the text, which I appreciate him bringing up, but it does acknowledge this problem, is that because of the interrelationships of all these spacings, there's just so many variables moving at once. What would really help if there was a set of exercises that scaffolded and isolated those relationships and built them up over time. So that's generally, I think, the main limitation of this text. But overall, I think it's a very strong concept and walkthrough, in my opinion. With that, Michael, the floor is yours.
All right. So great minds think alike. So I'm going to put myself right below you. I'm also going with a 4 as well. Obviously, these are concepts that if you didn't know them before, they could be quite complex. But I feel me, especially as a visual learner, there was a lot of visual inspiration about how some of the proximity, how the spacing goes. And I think that even in the introduction, it was even said that, this was at first going to be like a comic about typography. So there's a lot of visual inspiration in here. And that's what I liked about it. Also, that's why I put it at a 4 as well, because, if you're a beginner at this, these concepts may be too dense for beginners especially. But again, if you look at this and come back to it, I think that you could take a lot from it. So it's not beginner friendly, that's for sure. But it's there's clear visual explanations to everything. So if you're patient with it and want to get better at typography, I think this is a great book.
Matteo, the floor is yours.
All right, guys, this is where we're gonna have to fight. We're gonna have to duke it out, because for me, I landed right smack at 5, and Cyrus did a great job keeping it short, concise, and clear. Thomas, I think you said it when you said that he didn't try to cover a ton of topics too, narrowly or broadly, and because of that, he was able to stay focused and provide the clearest explanation of these concepts I've seen in the industry in a long time. So it was very short and to the point. And that's why under this ranking, I think this is the probably best area of this book that I'm gonna say. So I'll leave it there.
And on that, short and sweet, Matteo. Very well said. With that said, we have our guest, Andrea. Andrea, what was your rating?
So mine for the clarity of concepts, I'm actually in between, probably closer to 4.75. If I had to put it somewhere, it would be there. Basically, I agree with the points that all of you guys are making. The concepts were kind of it's honestly such a great book, especially for students to kind of get their hold on the idea of how typography works, especially if you were taking a typography 1 class. I wish I had this book then, because in school, you learn, oh, editorial is done during different ways. You have books are one way, newspapers are one way, and his stuff is very short and simple and to the point, so you understand those concepts specifically. And yeah, I think it's just he brings them the concepts that he's trying to talk about counter space and certain words like the glyph space, which I never heard about before. So it was kind of I learned something new reading the book as well. And the way he described it was it was very clear and concise. So it's he used a lot of analogies where you could understand it if you had no idea what anything regarding typography. So I'm gonna put myself over there.
Duly noted. I don't think there's that much of disagreement.
Yeah.
I think probably for both me and Michael, I think what we're saying is more or less great execution of this concept. The issue is just it's almost like clarity of concepts and obviously in practical application have overlap. I feel like what's going on is that me and Michael are weighing a little bit of the practical application part into the clarity of concept, because clarity of concepts require in design, when it's really I really do stand on this point about taste. It's cultivation of taste. What this is trying to teach you. And it is like teaching how much oregano, how much salt to put in your dish. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a general outline, but the particulars you got to experience that yourself, and I find that's where I find sometimes texts struggle with that point in terms of how to articulate taste. But you guys can certainly push back on that point.
Yeah, and when I'm teaching typography, I was trying to teach this week of my students about how a paragraph rags, the end of it, how jagged it can be. We're trying to straighten all these out, make squares out of all of this, and it's kind of hard. I'm well. So a student astutely asked me, where do you stop? How do you know when it's right? And it's you don't. It's like it's definitely one of those taste things. So it's kind of hard to articulate that, but showing it, in this book especially, it's like what's best practices. So I like that. Go ahead, Matteo.
Yeah, I was gonna jump in and riff off of Thomas's point that I think you guys are like laying into practical application in this criteria, which is where I would say, yeah, that would weaken the score. But if we're just kind of isolating the clarity of concepts in the way that Cyrus explains the topics that he covers, I think he does a wonderful job just giving you short, concise, to the point, and giving you those concepts without too much fluff. Go ahead, Andrea.
I completely agree. I do understand, like, you both being teachers, where if you guys were to give this to your students, you'd be like, where's the application? Like, what if I'm giving you this book to read, what can you then do? What can you get information from that can then apply to your typography work or whatever work you're doing? So definitely agree with, maybe there could have been like an exercise or a practice that he might have just thrown in there to kind of do that. But I'm not sure if that's what the book is entirely, like the not necessarily the point of the book is to do that, but except to just give the concepts regarding the basics of typography, because it was very much like a history book if it was going to be anything, if I had to describe how this book is. But it was, again, amazing read. But yeah,
there definitely was some lore. Like I feel like we got the typographic lore a little bit in this one.
The Gutenberg lore.
Yes, the Gutenberg lore.
Shout outs to Chris Lam Chen, a huge Gutenberg fan. She has, I think, a sticker that says Gutenberg's my homie. Okay.
I love that.
With that said, onwards. Let's move on to visual inspiration. Okay, so I think maybe I was being too hard on this book when I started reading it, but looking at my notes. So my rating, I'm just going to go in for it. I gave it a 3. And the reason why is because, listen, the illustrations, super charming. Highsmith had a great time with the illustrations, I can tell. It's in his very particular, he has a very specific style of illustration. I've seen it on his other work, and he does that. And they support the text incredibly well. I'm not going to dismiss any of those points. And I think the lettering-based captions also really add a nice touch, just as an aesthetic experience reading this book. They really give it a sense of warmth and does not distract from the argument. I think it's really solid. Speaking of which, the typography in general, it's solid. It's appropriate. It's coherent. It works. But it's not necessarily adventurous per se. The body copies in Iblis text and the headlines set in Scout. Those are designs fonts from him, and they work. They're perfectly competent. And Iblis text actually was designed for this book, and you can feel it because it carries a crunchy texture that pairs really well with the coarse quality of the illustrations and the caption lettering. I think that feels really integrated. That's really nice. Scout feels kind of less necessary. It doesn't really add much to the palette, in my opinion, especially given its genealogy of like Din 1451, which is compared to Iblis text, which drew from Albaum and Malator. Much more transitionals in terms of their genealogy of form. So the results are servable and really pleasant, but we're not really talking about a showstopper, because when I think about what his visual inspiration is compared to the other texts we've read, it's the text you go, wow, I'm like inspired to do this kind of work. Like, or either by the work being demonstrated inspires you, like Martina Flora, for example, or the typographic presentation and the entire editorial process is just so rigorous and literally a design object example by itself. I'm thinking of the lettering manual from Ken Barber, for example. Like the whole package was so outstanding. The visual presentation of it, the materials, the typography, the layout, all that. So that's my read. Not a showstopper, but very perfectly adequate, and I think very quiet in its approach, but perfectly reasonable. That's what I got. Michael.
Yeah. So I'm actually interested in what books that you have, because I forgot to ask this. So I have the newest one, which is the 2020 version. Do you have the 2012 version?
I might. Yeah, it's an older version.
Okay, so it's the older version. So yeah, so I have this one. So I'm probably wondering if there's nuances in it or not. I should have asked that beforehand. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to give this a 4. If I can grab onto this, there you go. I'm going to give it a 4. And it's not flashy or inspirational. That is now that we've done a few of these and I can understand more what you're saying. So it's visual inspiration just in general. But I think for me, the inspiration comes from the understanding of all this and how I can apply it. Especially, I'm a self-learner, so I'm always grabbing things that will help me, give me a little bit of an edge, or learning something new. This feels like, I mean, it's so small, but it's, what do they say? Small things come in, or big things come in small packages. This is exactly that, and I was really impressed about how much was crammed into this and the way it was presented. So no, it's not one like the books from House Industries for sure. But I love all these because I'm into manuals. I love those types of learning, and especially visual learning. And it's also it doesn't have a kind of a too technical tone to it. I thought that it was, almost the comic kind of like this is how it is, and it was very loose, and I enjoyed that.
Matteo?
Yeah, I'm gonna show you guys some of my favorite illustrations. Right here was this illustration where he talks about the optic nerve in your brain, and it's nothing too technical. It's very comic-y, and it's very funny and just whimsical in his approach. And a lot of the visuals are just like that. They're black and white, they're illustrative, they're fun, they're comical, the way that we perceive text. But then there's a lot of this stuff that just, and I'll put that away. Go ahead, you can put that away. There's a lot of that same stuff of like it gets black and white text, and we're just seeing kind of the same redundant look throughout the entire book. So unfortunately, visual inspiration, I landed myself at a solid 2 for this one.
Nice. Look at the hate coming with the strong thing.
I had to hit it
You
hard. I
started
had
so
to hit it
strong.
hard. I agree with what Michael said. The book it's small but mighty. It's a wonderful book. I rated it high for clarity of concepts. For visual inspiration, it's just not there, right? The illustrations do a wonderful job at providing more clarity of concept, but what it doesn't do is it doesn't really inspire me all that much. And I think part of that is the gray, black and white treatment. The other part of that is just like when we looked at the lettering manual by Ken Barber, we saw like visual after visual after visual of like wonderful, beautiful designs. And whether it was black and white design that he showed us or in color, we just got inspired by the overall aesthetic and material that we're working with, and then that inspires you to want to go and try these concepts. And the same for Martina Floor and the golden secrets of lettering. But here I didn't see like lots of visual inspiration or material to go say like, here's a beautifully typeset block of text by some publishing house, right? And he could have done that, I feel like, to provide just to tie it home, because he did a great job explaining these concepts, but then it's like, show us what that looks like in the wild, in a beautifully designed way.
Andrea?
I might be biased. I might be a tad bit biased because I love black letter, and there was one illustration for me where I don't have the physical book. I did it on my phone, so I don't have the beautiful book in front of me. But there was one illustration that I remember that it was, I think, in the beginning of the book, where it's kind of like it's the letter setting for it, and you have just all the beautiful black lettering with it. And it was just, for me, it's, I guess, like, I just again, it's the bias of black lettering because it's my favorite. For me, the illustrations were really, really like, it kind of it summarized whatever he was talking about into something short and sweet. So that way, in case you didn't want to read it, you read the entire thing, you still had an illustration piece that kind of summarized what he was talking about in the most dumbed down way possible, or simplified way possible. And so I do get it, where it's kind of like, maybe for me also, not having the physical book, I'm kind of limited on like what exactly like I'm able to like properly see. I thought he did an amazing job with that. Again, he could have definitely done more regarding the visual inspiration and more with typography, and showing examples, like Matteo said, of it in the wild to kind of give you a better sense of it. But yeah, I don't know. I like the illustrations. They were fun. And for me, I'm for the most part, very monochromatic. So it's like, I like, yes, that I adored that so much. That was my favorite illustration out of the entire book. And yeah, I don't know. I like the monochromatic, but that's because I'm also monochromatic for the most part.
Okay, can I jump in on this point?
Yes.
I feel like if we just had a spot color, like a rich black, or like, production doesn't require wham bam thank you man blind embossing crazy leather texture material like the lettering manual had. Like the lettering manual had a crazy production. It had metallic foils in it. It really went buck wild. I don't think this book requires that. But even just things like a spot color, like a rich black, for example, would make a huge difference. I mean, it is true, and Michael made it clear that I have the I had the first draft, the first edition, and it looks like they added more. There's actually red in the second edition inside. There was no red on the first edition.
Yeah.
So it really was just black and white. There wasn't even an accent color. But even that red I'm seeing on the inside, that looks like a very muted. It's like the paper quality or something. It's like, I don't want to call it butcher paper, but it's not. It's like, at least again, it's the 2010 edition. The 2010 edition I have. It's the paper's really coarse. The ink hit's not that strong. There's like things even just raw production, just to go like, because visual inspiration is not just what you see, it's like how it's shown in my understanding. So like production quality of the production of the book existence does matter. Is it as bad as 7 Habits or Design Everyday Things? No, it's far better. The very fact that I can even talk about the font pairing and actually point out like strong thought process behind it, especially caption and text, like this is better than them. That's why it has a 3 for me. Like versus the other ones got like once because they were so bad. But I don't know. What's everyone's feelings about the production quality of the book itself? I feel like that might be an area we all can come to some discussion about.
Yeah, well, I have the 2012 edition, and the production quality feels, I think, better than what you're describing. Maybe just a slightly better, upgraded, unless you have the same one. But I do love the font pairing. The paper quality feels just okay, nothing crazy. But I think I totally agree with you that the colors are they're very muted. There's nothing that really gets you like that richly inspired.
Yeah, it kind of feels a little like sketching paper, like if you're to sketch on it. But I like it. I think it's a unique. I, in a sense, like feel like it's like perfect for what it is. But even a page like this, that's if with a 4 color ink, it's going to be really dense, especially with a large black page. So, but I understand what you're saying, that you're right. It would come off as a little bit more premium, but I also like that the feeling of it is a little raw. It's almost like sketched, sketch feeling or handmade. I maybe that's what I'm kind of going for there.
I have the Android Google Pixel version, so I got this fancy one.
Fancy ebook. Yeah.
It
Fair
would, but
enough.
I'm someone who also likes the physical books too. I just wasn't able to get one in time. But that definitely makes sense of how does it look in real life when you have it in your hand, because that's a different quality all on its own with the printer that they use. So
Which
yeah.
is why you should go with Typecraft and
No, it's just listen, I was gonna do a shameless plug.
Shout
I'm
out to
like,
Typecraft.
I don't know. Yeah, their
High
stuff
quality
is
prints.
honestly, if anyone needs to do projects, they should just go to their stuff. It's amazing. And this isn't my bias. This is actual factual. You okay?
On that note, onwards. Let's move on.
Yes.
Practical application. Okay. So obviously, as you saw, my clarity of concepts got skewed slightly because I was coloring by practical application issues. But I also have this stance even within practical application. Gave it a 4-star, not 5. Why? Because the book is abstract by design, right? And in one sense, that's its real strength, as we're commenting. Clarity of the concept really got it. And that makes the idea evergreen. Like, that's the point. That's a really smart move. This book is as relevant in letterpress printing as it is in desktop publishing, as it is in the age of AI. It's going to be the same regardless. It holds up just as well as it did back in 2013 as it does now. But here's the problem with that. And this actually comes up, especially, and again, I don't have the current, I have the older edition, so I don't know if he updated it or just so you guys can clarify me on this, but it was on justification hyphenation. Okay, that chapter, that section is kind of useless unless you actually talk about Adobe InDesign. Because remember, back at that time, the web had no context. Like, the powers of justification and hyphenation were really limited on the web at that time. It really was a print Adobe InDesign, maybe Quark Express discussion. That's where justification hyphenation came up as a relevant discussion point. And the illustrations gestured at it. It literally showed the diagram, basically an abstractional diagram of I call it the justification engine of Adobe InDesign, where it's like the panels, like you give the min-max kind of qualifications about it. And he's talking about it, but no student is going to read that and know what's going on there. Like, you got to know the software to understand what's happening there. So and I understand why he did that, because he wanted to make sure. But if he gave the screenshot of, there you go, the dials, exactly. Like, this, he's trying to use a metaphor to explain what's going on there, but no, you got to know the software to understand what's going on there. There's no way my students would ever understand that otherwise. So that said, the first section is incredibly broadly useful. The practical application, the first section, immense. It gives designers a strong conceptual foundation, the thing about typesetting. And that alone has a lot of value. That's why it's a 4 for that. But because of how he handled the last section of hyphenation justification, I think I knock it down because of it. Because it's abstractional quality, in my opinion, when that happened. Michael, the floor is yours.
Yeah, this one was, I really wanted to give it a 5, and I'll probably I'm gonna come close to 5. I'm somewhere in between of it, but I mean, I think it's extremely strong, and especially for concepts like spacing, line length, especially rhythm. I think that is one that I couldn't really quite articulate that if I were to tell somebody that. I feel like a book like this would be a way to kind of show that. And I think that a lot of this can be, immediately used in any branding work. I'm right now, showing people, how to, properly format a text in InDesign, like you were saying before. How do you properly do that? Why do you have these considerations? It may take a little bit longer to learn, kind of going through this, but I think it's definitely practical. I was just at a letterpress. We were doing some letterpress printing at a shop, and I felt like my skills were good only from like just being around typography all that time, but the people that I was with didn't have those skills. I think if I would have given this book I think that they might have had a little bit of an easier time doing the laying out the text, making sure there were spaces in between, visually how it's supposed to lay out. I think it would have been very valuable in that sense.
Yeah,
Matteo?
oh my God. I'm gonna pull up this spread right here, and this is the spread where he talks about set solid, and what that means, and I like this as a graphical layout to see the ascenders and descenders sort of sitting together, right? And he talks about how when you're setting the line space according to the font's built-in spacing, the set leading to the same value as the point size. So let's say it's 10-point font, and you set the leading to 10. You've set it set solid, right? But where it fails for me on practical application is that it doesn't show us, again, visual examples of what that looks like. So for me, my ranking on this one, guys, that's hard. I had to judge this one hard.
Wow.
Practical application set hard at a 2, because man, like, I get the concept now. You explained it clearly, and I ranked it clarity of concepts 5, but I need to see that now. And some examples of work is it show us a magazine, show us some logos, show us on the website, show us show us that it's how you're going to take this concept and apply it to the actual real world design projects. And he avoids software to try and maintain the longevity of this book, which is, I thought, a good strategy. But at the same time, then it's something that he was also avoided, is like showing this stuff in the real world, so we could see. So we get the concept of like, here's how to typeset leading so it can breathe, or so it can read visually, and the illustrations there to help. But then now show me that in like a magazine, for example, so we can actually see the concept.
Shocking revelation. Andre, who you got?
Matteo went in so strong, and now
He's strong in both ways, just in different directions.
I know. I am actually going to put myself directly in the middle. I think this is really good for being able to teach students. Like, it's a really good accompanying book for a lesson. But for like professionals who are already like in the field, yes, I did learn a few things that I had no idea about. It was never taught in class. But if it was something that I was taught in class already, it kind of it's just like another book to have. In that sense, there's no like actual, like Matteo was saying, there's no application being shown in the real world, but I think it is a great book for if you're teaching students who have no idea, and you have this book where it's like they learn, it's essentially their history book. They learn all the lore, and then in class you can then teach them this is kind of like how it goes. Because then you kind of create that application to go along with whatever they're learning. So that's why I'm in the middle.
I do want to push back a little bit on Mateo's judgment, only because he does diagram what tight rhythm is, loose rhythm. Like, he does show you it, but via abstractional squares.
Yeah.
So I want to push back. He does. That's partly why I gave it a higher rating, because he does point out his concepts with visual illustrations. But I will agree with you. They're so abstractional by nature, because they're just squares. They're just blocks of gray. That, yes, no, I'm telling you, the students are not going to get it. They will not understand the connection. There's zero chance that will happen. So, well, I'm sympathetic about it, but I do want to push back to say there were examples. It's just that they were inherently abstract. So,
yeah,
it sounds like, Matteo, you were looking for like explicitly like logo types, layouts, things like that actually apply this idea.
Yeah. I agree with you. He abstracted the concept so beautifully, But then now what we're missing is to show that in a magazine, for example, in a spread. Like, here's a beautifully done spread by Vogue magazine that has a set solid heading and then wonderful breathing space and the leading of the body copy, and it allows you to just like your eyes to flow in and read. Then I could have been like, yep, now I can see where you're taking those abstract concepts and how a designer has applied it into the real world. Therefore, I can now try to take this abstract and apply it into my next design that I'm going to be making. So that was where I was feeling there was a missing piece.
Yeah, I mean, as typographic fundamentals, you know, if I was trying to have somebody do an editorial, you know, typesetting or a system-based design, or what I did when I started doing my UX work, I was just basically using the concepts of typography for my UX, and it was just like, you know, lending to accessibility and how things are seen. That's where I feel like this book wasn't trying to be too much more than what it is. It's just the fundamentals of this. What's the best practices? So that's where I think the practical application, I think, in my opinion, definitely shines.
And I want to riff off of that a little bit, Michael, because we learned from Type Ed, run by Rachel Elnar and Michael Stinson, and Michael Stinson did an amazing, fantastic job of explaining the typographic concepts here, taking us through the fundamentals and showing us the practical application, how these things look in the real world and why they are good when they're set this way. And he's the first one to explain to me the term set solid, which is why I highlighted that and remembered him fondly. And yeah, so I feel like we've gotten those lessons, and Cyrus Highsmith does a good job of like an introductory. This is a wonderful, I think, Andrea, you said it very well. Like, this could be a great like intro book to get the basics, but it's like now in class we're going to go into practical application because the book needs that extra step. Yeah.
Mhm.
Duly
Also,
noted.
oh,
Andrea, last thoughts before we move on.
yes, last thoughts. For the last chapter, the H&Js, some of the illustrations for that I can say were also kind of just like, I was looking at, I'm like, what's going on here? It did get a little bit too abstract in the shapes where it would have kind of confused someone if they had no idea what they were reading. Or even if they were reading it but don't really understand the concepts yet, that could also be where it kind of did really well in the beginning, but kind of starts a little bit lacking towards the end compared to the previous concepts. But yeah, that's it.
Duly noted. All right, shall we move on? Typographic insight. All right, I'm just going to come on in, and this one I don't have any hesitation about. This is a 5. Listen, this is distilled knowledge. So actually, it's almost like Mateo's points about the clarity of concept. This is where I put the emphasis in, is on this one. It's just distilled knowledge. And that knowledge it's distilled knowledge always looks so obvious after the fact, after someone else has already done all the thinking. And that's part of what makes this book so impressive. Cyrus compresses the accumulated insight of a serious practice into about 100 pages. Like, it's just compressed in decades of thought, right? And best practices just compressed into one book. And you can get it done in 1 hour. I read this thing in less than 35 minutes. You know, it's not that long of a read. But that brevity is really deceptive, because if a young designer actually took seriously this book, their work would significantly improve. These are the kind of insights, and actually I think it's interesting that Matteo brought up, you know, Type Ed. Like, these are the kind of insights you're going to get from a typography course with mixed results. You need an incredibly great practitioner to, like, in like that in Type Ed, to get these kind of insights. And generally you don't. They're very mixed results. Now, this book doesn't replace that training, but it clarifies the target with that target, what we're trying to aim for in an introduction typography course, with unusual precision. I think it's, in terms of insights, for better. So I give it a 5. Michael.
Yes. This might be one, again, that I might just put half my face on here so it hangs off the side.
It's off the charts.
It is
Off the
literally,
charts.
literally. I just think I just have my ear on there, but you know, obviously this is where this book is, definitely excels in my opinion. It elevates how you think about text and typography as a system. And that is one thing that, especially when I'm teaching, is trying to help kind of decipher, what is what is good typography, but also like what is fractured. What are, you don't want just individual elements that don't work together with without any cohesion. So whereas this is not a flashy book, it definitely is a precision tool, I believe, that you can use to definitely give yourself a not a degree in typography, but definitely a good start. And like I said, it's a manual for me. It's definitely a book that I'm going to go back to again and again in my teachings. When someone doesn't understand typography, I'm definitely going to go to this book quite a bit.
Matteo.
Very eloquently put, Michael. And you're right. This book is a precision book. And that's why, again, I landed solid 5. So clarity of concepts, 5. Typographic insight, solid 5 for Cyrus Highsmith. You did a wonderful job putting together a very distilled version of the typography at large and allowing any reader at any level to come in and learn along with you the concepts that you were explaining. So you gave them true typographic insight, because most graphic design courses do not ever get into the depths or the weeds of, and you went into that. Your illustrations did an excellent job at helping us visualize and abstract the typographic concepts so we could follow along with your thinking, especially the way that you illustrated how the eyes perceive and read. And that really just filled my heart with joy, because I hadn't seen anyone kind of illustrate in that way and bring typography and illustration together and teach what these missing pieces of the puzzle in our design industry. Because in my graphic design learning, it was just like typography felt so breezed over that I had to go and do a ton of supplemental learning. And I wish I had this book sooner. So thank you. Solid 5 right here.
Andre.
I'm gonna come on, there we go. I'm gonna be where Mako is too, because I 100% agree. This book is so solid, and it honestly it should be a part of a lot of rubrics, because it gives that all that information that you need condensed down in such a like small what is it, 100 and something page, like 107 pages, I think, if that. So definitely the insight that they give, the history, the how to look at typefaces. Like Matteo said, I wish I had this sooner. I wish I had it when I was in school learning about it, because I think it would have set one of my professors always said I had an eye for typography. This would have really like hit it home if I was able to have a book like this earlier on in my life. But yeah, that's kind of where I 100% agree with all you guys. It's he does such a good job with distilling that knowledge out. So yeah, I'm at off the charts.
Off the charts.
Off the charts.
I think it's almost basically unanimous. Everybody agrees this book is, in terms of typographic insight, it's a real winner. No one has any contention about that. With that said, I think we can mosey on down since it's basically unanimous. All right, last category. Kind of put it all together. Overall impact. Okay. I consider this a foundation text for designers learning typesetting. Other books may cover similar ground, but if you do it with like anything even close as distilled in clarity, it's small, it's focused, it's intellectually durable. There's basically any time this book, you can talk about this book is with any introduction course. So the only reason why I'm going to give it, can I grab it? Thank you. I gave it a 4. And the only reason I stopped to give it a 5 was because I do think that middle interlude brushes up against the edge of typographic knowledge without fully entering it. And I'll explain what I mean. So in that text, he's explaining, actually relates to how the eye reads, like how we read, the biology aspects of it. There's an issue about it. And I do appreciate Cyrus being really intellectually honest about it. It's that unresolved tension between reading research and typographic practice. He doesn't pretend that question is answered. He doesn't overclaim. He doesn't make any big kind of qualifications about it, but he does acknowledge that the literature and research on reading science is in contention with typographic best practice in many ways. For example, the idea that capitals are more legible than mixed case. Typographers would all go, what are you talking about? That's ridiculous. Typically, what's happened is that over time, it's developed into the account of what's called legibility versus readability. So definitions and language got used to try to distinguish these differences. But with that said, I'm pointing out that because we actually don't understand, we have some rough ideas, we have some ideas about the biology of reading, but the actual normative qualitative experience of reading, and I say this because someone who has an interest in working in typography that improves reading performance for individual reading difficulties, there's a lot of things that actually are still at the boundaries. This book doesn't just gets you right to it's a very great introduction text that gets you right to that edge, right? To be competent in typography and its basic concepts, so you can get to the current practice and the current research and thinking about typography and reading practices. But so because of that, it doesn't have any, in terms of overall impact in the culture and in the practice, it's a little hurt from that, in my opinion. But overall, as a quick introduction text of instilled knowledge to give to people that understand one of the key concepts of typography, of the spacing between inside paragraphs and letter forms, the glyph space, as Andrea said, I think the very fact it's even named, it's actually a big deal because most texts don't even name that space. That's a huge deal. And that's absolutely, it should be in every syllabi as an introduction text to typography. I already do it. I do it in my classes, and I highly recommend anyone who's teaching to do so as well. So with that said, that's me. Michael.
Yeah, you landed exactly where I am. Definitely a solid 4 for overall impact. So for designers and students who are serious about typography, this book's going to be a game changer. And I'm like all of you, I wish I would have had this a lot sooner to definitely kind of help me with kind of articulating how, what is good typography? What, especially, I fumbled around and kind of learned the hard way to do a lot of this stuff that I do with my branding work and even typography. But I would have definitely loved this book. It's not going to inspire you emotionally like a good lettering book would, but it will definitely sharpen your eye for the standards of typography. So for that, a 4. I wanted to rate it higher, but I think I think 4 is about the right score for this.
Matheo.
Guys, I think we're all in synchrony and harmony over here because I landed on the same exact thing. I scored this a 4 for overall impact because I believe that the strength in this book is the distillation and simplification of these typographic concepts that are really hard to learn and discover elsewhere. Just trying to find articles or YouTube videos or TikToks, whatever you pick your medium. If you're trying to learn about typography, it will feel very scattered and hard to understand and interpret these concepts. So the overall impact and the strength of Inside Paragraphs by Cyrus Highsmith is that he's taken those concepts, presented them in a very easy to understand, logical way, and given you a clear path to get past those basics and set a strong foundation so you can begin building on top of that with all your designs. So yeah, I would say this is going to last in the industry. And the point that Thomas made, he's removed the software from it, and he just kind of kept it very much about letter forms, right, in the space between the paragraphs. That was well done because this book will have lasting relevance. I mean, already over a decade, and I would say yes, still include this in your teaching or in your learning.
All right. Looks like it's going to be a queen's clear sweep. What a queen sweep. Yeah, all four. Yay. 100% agree with all of your points. It is there. If there was the things we were talking about that it's lacking added into it, it would have been an easy 5, where it had the application for it. It had like just the extra like visuals and just maybe explanations of certain concepts, but the relevance and just the way he perfectly condenses everything into the book just makes it like such an amazing book overall. Yeah, I don't even know what else to say about it because you guys kind of like hit hit the nail. What is it? Hit the nail on the head or something like that. Is that the saying?
That's the expression. Yes.
Yay. But yeah, no, 100% agree. Like it's definitely it's there to last. And I think Matteo, you were saying like it's been 10 years since the book's been published and it still can hold strong. And being able to kind of like, because even as a student, you're not really taught to look at paragraphs or words, and that's how typography should be seen. You're kind of like, as a student, like I remember being focused on just typefaces, not the actual bulk of what you're doing as a designer. Is essentially you're working with paragraphs, you're working with phrases, you're working with a like an amalgamation of words, not just a single word or a single letter. Or even if it is a single word, at least like you have that. But yeah, I put it at a 4 as well.
Clean sweep. Again, very interesting when we're all in agreement with each other. It's very interesting. Yeah. So great book. Obviously, people should read it. By the way, we do read your comments. People have been commenting on the live stream. Some fun comments have been coming in there. I think we should probably I'll transition in. Yes, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Stefan.
Yeah, Stefan's coming strong with some of his points.
Yeah.
And Maria is contending with, I think, with Matteo on this point about or maybe it was me. It's probably a combination of both of us talking about the abstractional examples. Matteo does want to see the goods. This is true. Yes, Stefan. And Maria, you are welcome. Glad you for watching. And I hope if you didn't know about this book, please definitely check it out.
Especially if you're a teacher.
Yes, especially if you're a teacher. I mean, if there's any takeaway, teachers, this book needs to be in your syllabi.
Yes.
Yep. I think I'll also agree with that.
That's what I do. To go with Andrea's point, I wanted to say also that it's very easy to teach about headlines, big display type, but teaching paragraphs and, if you're doing an article, and flowing text, what does that look like? What is the right size? What is the right leading? What's all these factors, how much, and so like, I feel like this book is a great teaching module and should be definitely used more. I know I'm going to use it.
Yay. You're doing your students a huge favor by doing so.
Well, they see how passionate I am about typography. So I'm glad that they actually want to dive into it a little bit more because it's a little daunting. And I've also find this, I wanted to bring this up earlier, even with Type Thursday, doing the events, people are kind of like on the edge. They're like, oh, I don't really know a lot about typography. It's not really my thing. I think once they go to these events and see how passionate people are about it and the fine details of it and why it's important, I think that they walk away from it. And I hear it all the time that these types of things matter in the world. And that was, to end my point, most people can tell when typography is good, or can they just tell when it's bad? So it's like, it definitely makes you question that. And I feel like this tells you why, things stand out and why they don't stand out. Well,
beautifully said, Michael.
Clip it.
Yeah.
Clip it now.
Clip it.
Very good. With that
Clip
said,
it.
Michael, you can transition us to our wild card segment.
Yes.
For those who don't know, we do a wild card transition where we have a randomizer pick out a topic that we riff on, hot take based on the book. And we have a guest today. We're Andrea today, so we'll see what she comes up with.
Oh no.
The
All right. And here we go.
spinny wheel. Okay, better not land on the same one.
I don't imagine the book cover again.
Redesign one chapter.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, we did this. We had this one a couple weeks ago. Redesign one chapter title in your favorite typeface, which is very appropriate because I was not feeling the Scout headline font being used across these chapters. I was not feeling it. Obviously, if you something from Cyrus, I think definitely, or his Foundry, one or the other. Definitely I think some crunchy black letter. I'm sure he has one. He has to have one. I would be very surprised if he doesn't. I'll Google it as everybody's talking, but that's my first instinct off the top of my head in terms of how to answer that.
Oh, me. Agree. I feel like there needs to be like, again, for me, I'm only seeing it on mobile, so I don't know exactly like how it's laid out properly in the book. For me, all the text is in a serif typeface. I don't know if it's the same thing in the book as well. So for me, like I would have loved to see like a chunky, like something like heavy, at least for headlines to kind of separate it. Because even on mobile too, the headlines kind of were like extremely small compared to the body copy. So it was like certain things, it's like, oh, this is a new section. And it didn't show that properly on mobile where I'm like, okay, I am in a new section now. But definitely if they had a black letter, I mean, I would love a black letter. That would definitely be like, I'm trying to think of a really good one that's similar to, because he has all the black lettering that's in the illustrations. He could 100% probably use all of those black letters he created and put them into their title. Use it as a title, a chapter title, like, oh, he's back. Put it as like a chapter title typeface, or even like something that will kind of like go with the rest of it, but like something heavy so you can there's a clearer distinction between it. But yeah, I don't know specifically what typeface, but you know.
I shared the screen. I share some tabs from his Foundry.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Let me I'll look for. There it is.
He actually doesn't have a legit black letter, but this is the best I could find on his on the Foundry site.
There you go.
Like imagine that as your headlines working with the illustrations.
That's perfect. Oh my gosh.
That's the point.
point.
I was thinking that when I was running my review notes, I'm like, he's got better fonts. He's got better headline font that can work with this, that better matches illustrations.
Yeah. Because like if you look at the headline font he chose, it's just this very understated, simple serif, right? And it's not all that exciting. But then his illustrations are very exciting. They would have matched so well with the occupant Gothic there.
Yeah, even like on the cover, that's a perfect example of it. Like it would have been really nice. I mean, because it seems pretty pedestrian.
Or even the other Gothic one that he has another Gothic that's up there.
Wow.
Yeah, no, this one's too boring.
No, this is. I mean, if you're still seeing my screen, I jumped to Scout. Yeah.
Yeah.
See it?
This is the one he's using. Yeah. It's very safe. But the illustrations aren't a safe approach, so it doesn't feel like the
exactly.
Yeah,
that's the part I'm like.
There it is.
Actually, I think another one, by the way, that caught my. I was thinking, and I was thinking it, but I was doing my notes about the font pairings. I was like, well, what font would I use if I was him? Another one is a Surge one. It's crazy.
Oh, that would have been perfect.
Look at that texture.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Like getting the black weight. Yeah.
Yep.
Can I type?
Yeah.
I can't type. Okay. Yeah, that's
definitely that looks very Greek. I don't know why.
That, Michael?
It looks really Greek, like a Greek like font, like a something
It
for
does.
like Uzo or something like that. Like
As if it was made with the chisel tool, and he probably
Yeah.
referenced
very
that, right?
interesting. Yeah.
Because he mentions I think with the Roman Empire when they were carving into stone to do typography. So he's clearly got the historical references in mind, and this would have been a beautiful pairing with his illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
Again, over Scout.
Yeah, isn't if you go back to that one, Thomas, I want to say there's one called like Egg White or something like that. That was really,
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah, I'll
was
share my
cool.
screen. I saw it before. I mean, I feel like that's a little over the top, but
Of course, but it's still
like
very intriguing.
that gives like goofy, like
Yeah, of course.
but it's super. I'll share the screen for everybody to see.
Well, with his illustrations, it does feel pretty goofy the way he approached the visuals, but they're fun. Oh, Egg White.
What?
Yeah.
That is a fun one.
Yeah, that's very mom and pop breakfast diner, I feel like.
Yeah.
Menu font.
Now I'm
That
hungry.
absence of a neck on the G's, 2-story G's. Look at that.
So crazy.
Yeah. That's
Very
good. I mean,
cool.
he's clearly Cyrus Highsmith. You are a master type designer. I mean, look at the beautiful work here.
Nice.
Oh. Side paragraphs. Oh, see, that would be fun. Actually.
There you go. Wow.
That would actually be fun. What
Well,
a
Now,
fun
now
site.
committed. Like now I'm in for it. So like,
Oh, you got to see it now in
yeah, now I gotta go. We gotta go.
Gothic. That's right.
There
you go.
There you go.
Here we oh look at that. See, now that's the perfect pairing for
Yeah, that would have been a lot better than
Scout.
Michael's
And
got
then
it.
last check. By the way, everybody, this is what you got to always do. Like this is why we need. This is why I push so hard on the application side. Like typography is one of those things you got to see. There's no way
You
around
have to
it.
see it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Ooh, that is nice. That's sleek. But Occupant Gothic is definitely the winner on out of the three we just looked at. Egg Whites. So yeah, if you're a designer and you need fonts, check out Cyrus Highsmith. This just turned into a wonderful plug for his font.
Does anyone else any other recommendations before, in case
No,
we only call that a day?
That was great. I loved it.
Unanimous.
That was called the Foundry Impromptu.
So with that said, remember this is the Type Thursday Book Club season 1. We have 3 more books to read this time for the cycle until we're back in person for Type Thursday in person on April 20th.
30th.
Or 30th, sorry. The screen's really tiny for me, so I couldn't catch that. We have actually a fun book, a very fun book. We have, which one would wonder what is it doing here at Type Thursday's book club. Don't make me think. It's gonna be a fun read. We then have Ellen's typographic style and grid systems and graphic design. So be sure to grab a copy of that book and read it if you want to review it yourself before we rate it and review it together secretly and reveal it publicly in the live stream. Or you can find out afterwards the review and check it out. Don't forget, Type Thursday Book Club. It's here on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe on Type Thursday Global. We have live streams from past Type Thursday events around the world, as well as all the past episodes of Type Thursday Book Club. And more are forthcoming, as you know, because this season's going all the way to June.
Yay.
If it's not, like I said, if Type Thursday is, it's always Type Thursday on Thursday, whether it be online or in person. Speaking of which, Type Thursday LA, their early bird tickets are up and live. Matteo and Andrea from Type Thursday LA, any thoughts? Anything you want to share from the community about that?
You don't want to miss this one.
Yeah,
at all.
you don't want to miss this.
Don't want to miss this one.
I want to give a shout out to Rachel Fujita, our designer, who worked on this graffiti art, and she comboed with Jorge Gomez, who's down there on the left, and they worked together collaboratively. He did some hand sketched graffiti lettering art. He sent that to her. She worked it into the artwork of the identity design, which was inspired by LA graffiti culture. And all month long, keep an eye, follow us on Instagram at Type Thursday LA. You're going to be seeing this identity launch in all kinds of ways and just having so much fun with this creative style as we hopefully will reveal some nice things about LA culture and graffiti culture throughout the month.
Very good. Well, this has been the Type Thursday Book Club with Thomas, Michael, Matteo, and special guest Andrea. Hope you kind of hang out with us a little more, Andrea.
Yes, of course.
It's been very fun. So, like I said, like and subscribe. Thank you for your time, and everyone have a great night. Take care, everybody.
Smash that button.